Yo, I'm back, and today we are doing my top 10 manga of all time. And to be honest, I haven't read like that many series. I've read obviously like over 25 or so, but a lot of the ones I read are longer, and this is my top 10. I mean, 1 to 6 was like easy, but 7 to 10 was kind of hard for me. So we'll start with number 10, and that's Hell's Paradise. This manga, like, nothing like super special, like original, crazy, or anything. It's just honestly the characters were all great characters, and the power system with Tao, where like I think water Tao was effective against Earth Tao. I like that. It's not super original, like I said, but the story, they have to go to the island to fight, and it's just really the beasts that are on that island, like this right here, they are just like really crazy, and it's mainly the fight scenes in this, and Gabi Maru, because I really was rooting for Gabi Maru the whole time. I wanted him to get off that island, make it home. I'm not gonna spoil it because the anime is currently airing, but yeah, it's just a 13 volume series. I think it was perfect length. The art's very good too, and the fight scenes are great. I liked pretty much every character that was introduced, so that's also a positive. Yeah, that's my number 10. And number 9 is actually a manga that has yet to be printed in English. I've read this twice, and it's Kodansha's manga. It ended in 2012, and Kodansha has finally like actually translated it. I've read it twice with fan translations. So Kodansha's going digital only, which is super annoying. But the manga I'm talking about is Gamaran, and in this there are 31 sons of a lord, and he doesn't know who to give like power to. So he tasks his 31 sons to find the strongest martial artists in the land. So one of the sons goes to the turtle dojo. I can't remember, and he finds our main character Gama, who's this like kid, and he's the only one from the dojo. But what makes this manga very good is the fight scenes, because those 31 sons had to find 31 different dojos with different styles and different weaponry. How much weapons there are in this creates very different battles. So it's not just sword on sword battle, it's like sword on spear, there's archers. It just makes the story, or not the story, well, just like every fight in the story, like way better than just a normal, sword on sword type battle. Maybe I can put up a panel or two here. It's pretty good art. It's 22 volumes long if it ever gets printed, which it should, and it has a spin-off as well, which is cool. I haven't finished that spin-off, but hopefully Kodansha will print it. Then we move on to number 8, and that will be Dragon Ball. Dragon Ball as a whole. I was debating putting this number 7 or 8. I think I just ended up putting it 8 because I had watched the anime before this, so it was a little bit like, I don't know how to explain the enjoyability. Dragon Ball as a whole, Dragon Ball, Dragon Ball Z, and even Dragon Ball Super. I just finished the Moral arc in Dragon Ball Super. Very good. Just honestly, like one of the most fun manga you can read. You can actually fly through these. These are very, very easy to read, which is a good thing. And, it's a classic, the grandfather of anime and manga. It is a very good adventure, honestly. You just follow Goku and his strive to just get stronger and stronger. what can I say? It's Dragon Ball. If you don't know about Dragon Ball, you should. Number 7, and that is Black Clover. Yes, Black Clover does have a bad rap for a lot of people. It is kind of copy paste of other manga or other anime, but what I think the author does well is characters. Like every character in this story is nice, like cool. They have their own backstory. Maybe not every character, but there's good backstory. Fight scenes, the character designs are really cool to me. The devils are like very well done. The art is great, and overall, it's just like Dragon Ball, like, just a fun time. It's a fun shonen. So that would be my number 7. Okay, my number 6 is Ajin Demi-Human. I absolutely love this manga. I've read it 3 times because the antagonist in this story is the best antagonist of all time. Dude's absolutely batshit crazy, and he literally makes the story perfect. Yeah, there is some flaws in Ajin because if you don't know, the artist, Gamin Sakurai, he was only the artist, he was only supposed to be the artist for the first 5 chapters. And then after the 5th chapter, the studio basically said, like, the author, he went on to do High Rise Invasion. So he left Ajin. And I'm pretty sure there was like somewhat of a blueprint because if you watch the anime for this, there is like similarities, even though the anime season 1 and 2 like finished way before the manga finished. So there probably was like somewhat of a blueprint, but the artist to just come up with the rest of the story and make it like a very good story, that just shows how good of a mangaka he is. It's very brutal, very dark. I love like everything about the demi-humans. If you are an Ajin, you are a demi-human, so you cannot die. So if you do die, your your uh, your cells just like regenerate and you just come back to life. And there's a lot of things you can do. For example, if you chop off your arm and you put it up against a wall like that, and then you die and you respawn, your arm basically deletes everything in between, so you can make a hole into a wall. Your main character, you find out he's an Ajin, and then he has to go on the run from the government because they want to capture Ajins to do inhumane experiments on them because they can't die. So it's a good way to test new drugs and whatnot. And number 5 is one manga that I've been putting off buying for so long because I read it and I caught up to where it was, and I just put off buying it because I wanted to just buy other things, and I was always going to buy it one day, and now they're coming out with a deluxe edition. So the manga that I'm talking about that is my number 5 is Vinland Saga, and you might be wondering, only number 5? Yes, it's only number 5. Although I love reading Viking novels, fantasy novels, Lord of the Rings. I've watched Last Kingdom, I've watched Vikings Valhalla, I've watched it all. But the thing that I totally love about those stories is the battle scenes, the fights. And Vinland Saga, the first half, the prologue was so good. And then it completely switched directions. And the fact that I still love it is just like a testament to how good the manga is. It was never about how brutal the Vikings were, how the fights, how they raided. It was never about that. It wasn't about Thorfinn's revenge. It was really about growing as a person. Really, the only reason it's not higher, it would have been my number 4 slot, but the number 4 bumped it back. Something I read this year. It's just such a good manga, though. Like, it is a masterpiece. Don't get me wrong. It's a 10 out of 10. Art's great, story is amazing. Very excited for season 3. I'm up to date. I read that chapter as soon as it comes out every month. It's a masterpiece. Can't wait for the deluxe editions. That's my number 5. So my number 4, I did say it pushed Vinland Saga back to number 5, and my number 4 is Dimension W. I read this year. What is my favorite I read this year? It is a sci-fi about we find the fourth dimension, Dimension W, and in that dimension there is unlimited energy. So we start to make these things called like coils that you see right here. So everything in the world in this timeline is powered by coils which use energy from Dimension W. And she is one of our main characters. She is a robot. She's a specific type of robot. I'm not going to spoil too much. But you follow. Actually, let me just grab. You follow our main guy, Kyoma Mabuchi, and Mira. They partner up. He is a ex-warrior of a special task force. He does not like coils for a certain reason. She's a robot. And the story, honestly, is just from start to finish. It's a great story. And every character introduced has like a reason for being introduced. And the backstory of these two characters intertwine, and the more you read, the more you just want to keep reading to figure out how they connect through their backstory. And it's just honestly a great manga. It's probably like one of the only sci-fis that I've read or have, but I I fell in love instantly. And I have the full set, and I actually have a completely other set that I am going to make into hardcovers. And number 3, so this manga actually is my favorite anime of all time. It obviously was my number 1 slot. It was the first manga I ever actually read because of the anime, and that's Bleach. And Bleach, like the anime, was just like a time in my life. I guess I didn't really want to do anything. I was just chilling, and I watched Bleach, and I just binged it. Absolutely loved every minute of Bleach. So obviously, I had to collect the manga. I had to read the manga. I read it digitally, and then when I decided to start this whole manga collection thing, the first manga I ever bought was Bleach Box Set 3 because I wanted to read the Thousand Year Blood War again. So I bought 3, 2, 1 of the box sets. And obviously, it was my favorite manga because I didn't read too much. And it only got pushed back from the other 2 manga that is in slot 2 and 3, or 2 and 1. And Bleach, just great characters, huge cast. I love almost all of the characters. It's really the power system where your sword has its own spirit, which is like part of your spirit. And then it was just so cool how you had your own release command for your sword, and everyone's sword was like special. But not only did they have the release, they had the second release, Bankai. And I don't know, I just love swords too. I love anything with swords, honestly. But the fact that there was like spiritual, and then there was Hollows, and Ichigo's backstory, and then you find out about his dad and his mom, and it's just crazy. Obviously, not going to spoil. Don't want to spoil any Thousand Year Blood War. But Kubo, honestly, like beginning Bleach art is like good. It's very good still. But about, volume 20 or so, like the art switches gradually from the first to the 20th ish volume. And like the art's just so good. Story's great. Soul Society's great. Arrancar is just like, it's a mirror of Soul Society. And I wish Viz and like back then they didn't pressure as much as they did, because Bleach would have been even better if Kubo had his time and he wasn't rushed and didn't have deadlines, because there's a lot of shit he had to cut. There's a lot of like, people say like his backgrounds, he doesn't draw crazy backgrounds because he had shoulder surgery, and hand surgery, I believe, and like, and then he just still had to put out chapters every week. So, it was just part of the times. So now we come to our number 2 slot, and you're gonna be like questioning if Bleach was my favorite anime of all time and was my favorite manga at one point, then what is in the second slot? And that's Golden Kamuy. I love this manga to death. I watched the anime originally. Season, I think 1, 2, and 3 were out before I even decided to like read the manga. But the art is like, he's got his special style for characters, like he's got his own kind of style for faces and whatnot. But his art excels at like wildlife and structures, like his buildings, his architecture, and his wildlife. But that's not the reason I love this series. The story's good. It's the adventure and the characters and just how many emotions you can have when reading this. You can go from like laughing your ass off to like, your heart's racing because the battle just started. There's gore, there's whatever, and then next chapter, you're just traveling, you're hunting, you're cooking, and there's a lot of historical references in here, and you learn a lot about the Ainu culture, which is very cool. I didn't even know Ainu existed. I had no idea who they were. Their whole culture, I had no idea. This is probably the only manga I've ever read where I actually laughed out loud. It's just ridiculous. I love every character, love the story, art's great. Golden Kamuy, second slot. We're here. Number 1 slot. What could it be? Well, you know how I mentioned I love anything with swords. I love Vikings. I love fantasy. I love dark fantasy. So it would make sense. Berserk, baby. Berserk, number 1. I truly believe this is the best manga story with art, characters. It is the whole package. It is the best manga of all time. Quite frankly, it might be the best story also I've ever read. And that's crazy because I've read a ton of novels. Berserk, what can I say, man? Just amazing characters, amazing art. What an adventure. I'm speechless, man. Such a great manga. Rest in peace to Kentaro Miura. I really I don't have anything to say, man. It's Berserk. It is the GOAT. It is number 1. Rest in peace.